in a world that's forever trying to sell you someone else's version of success, someone else's rules for happiness, and someone else's blueprint for living. Being true to yourself feels like rebellion. And maybe that's exactly what it is. A quiet, everyday act of defiance. Because the truth, most people are just playing roles, putting on masks at sunrise, swapping them out at sunset. They talk about authenticity like it's some kind of brand, but you're not here to perform. You're not here to impress, to blend in, or to disappear behind the noise. You're here to live loud and real. Being true to yourself means standing in front of a mirror, metaphorical or otherwise, and saying, I see you, all of you, and I choose you. The flaws, the wild dreams, the fears you never admit out loud. It's about making peace with who you are, not chasing who you think you're supposed to be. It's messy, it's uncomfortable, but it's worth it. Because the second you betray yourself to win approval, you start vanishing bit by bit. And I'll tell you this, being liked isn't the same as being respected. Being popular isn't the same as being free. And if the price of acceptance is silence, conformity, or a plastic smile, don't pay it. Say what you mean, wear what you want, believe in what stirs your soul, even if the crowd laughs. Walk your own path, even if it's lonely for a while. That's the only way the world ever changes, by people who dare to show up real. And yes, you'll lose people. Yes, you'll be misunderstood, but what you gain is yourself. And that's the one person you're stuck with forever. So make sure there's someone you can look in the eye with pride, with love, with no regrets. Don't just exist. Don't just blend. Be unmistakably, unapologetically you, because anything less is a tragedy. C. Fitting in is seductive. It promises safety. It whispers, just say what they want to hear. Just smile when you don't feel like it. Just nod even if you disagree. Don't make waves. And we do it over and over, trading tiny pieces of ourselves to avoid rejection. And at first it feels easier, smoother. Like, why rock the boat when everyone else seems comfortable in the current? But here's the truth that hits hard if you let it. Every time you do that, you chip away at something sacred. You trade your truth for comfort. You start morphing into someone you don't even recognize. And maybe that's when the emptiness creeps in, that quiet voice asking, who even am I anymore? Because here's the thing, being liked, being accepted, it's fleeting. It's conditional. It depends on how well you play the part. But being real, being honest with who you are and what you stand for, that sticks, that holds weight. It builds a foundation under your feet that no one can shake. You don't need to fold yourself into someone else's mold just to belong. You weren't made to shrink. You weren't made to dilute your voice so others don't feel uncomfortable. And anyone who asks you to tone yourself down just to be more palatable isn't your people, they're your warning. So yeah, being real might cost you some invitations, some approval, some applause, but what you gain, integrity, self-respect, a life that actually feels like yours. And when you live like that unapologetically, you stop being forgettable. You stop being a shadow in the crowd. You start being a force. You start shining with something they can't fake, can't buy, and sure as hell can't copy. And trust me, in the long run, that's worth more than 1,000 nods of fake approval. Look, masks are easy. Comfortable. They're the quick fix when you don't want to deal with judgment, rejection, or even just the awkwardness of being seen in your raw form. We all wear them, sometimes smile when we want to scream, nod when we want to walk out, laugh when something inside us feels hollow. The world teaches us early, if you want to be safe, hide. If you want to be accepted, blend. If you want to succeed, perform. But what they don't tell you is this: the longer you wear that mask, the harder it is to take it off. It fuses to your skin. You start forgetting who you were before you put it on. And after a while, you're not living, you're acting. You're saying lines, hitting marks, and clapping on cue. But your spirit, it's somewhere in the back row, watching, wondering when you'll let it back on stage. And what a tragedy that is, because life is heartbreakingly short. We've got this one shot, one life. And to spend it pretending to be someone else, that's not living. That's a slow fading away. Authenticity, though it's raw, it's risky, it means being vulnerable, messy, sometimes misunderstood. But that's where the power is. That's where the connection lies. Because when you drop the mask, you give others permission to do the same. When you show up as your flaws, quirks, rough edges, and all, you stop chasing validation and start attracting truth. Real friendships, real love, real purpose. There's a quiet power in saying, this is me, no performance, no filter. Take it or leave it. It's not arrogance, it's self-respect. It's a declaration that your worth isn't up for negotiation. And yeah, you might lose people who only loved the version of you that made them comfortable, but you'll gain something they never could: offer, peace, that deep bone level peace that comes from no longer needing to impress or explain. So why waste another minute suffocating behind some polished, palatable version of yourself? Rip the mask off. Let the world see you, not the role you were told to play, because that is where the magic begins. H1. This is the bitter truth that most won't say out loud because it's not shiny, it's not easy, and it definitely doesn't come with applause. When you decide to be real, truly real, when you drop the act, speak your truth, live your values out loud, people will fall away. Some quietly, some dramatically, some with confusion, others with criticism. And that stings, doesn't it? Because we're wired to want connection. We're built for community. And when folks start turning their backs just because you stopped pretending, it feels like rejection in its most personal form. But here's what you've got to hold on to. Not all losses are tragedies. Some are revelations. Some are blessings disguised as betrayal, because the ones who slip away when you stand in your truth, they were never seeing you to begin with. They were attached to the mask, the version of you that bent, dimmed, or stayed silent just to keep the peace. They weren't in love with your soul. They were just comfortable with your performance. Now, losing people hurts. No point sugarcoating it. The silence where their voice used to be is real. The ache of memories and shared laughs that doesn't vanish overnight. But what grows in the empty space they leave behind, that's where the beauty begins to bloom. Because once you stop twisting yourself to be what others want, you create space for the ones who truly get you. The ones who don't flinch at your intensity, who don't shrink from your honesty, who meet you eye to eye, heart to heart, no filter needed. Your people, they show up different. They don't need you to translate your soul. They speak your rhythm. They challenge you, yes, but they never ask you to betray yourself in the process. They walk beside you, not ahead or behind. And when you stumble, they don't shame you. They remind you of who you are. But here's the hard part. You can't find them if you're still busy performing. You can't attract what's real if you're living fake. It's a trade. You give up the illusion, the approval, the surface level comfort, and in return, you get something raw, unshakable, and deeply, deeply true. So yes, being true to yourself will cost you people, but the ones you lose, they were never truly yours. And the ones you gain, they'll feel like home you didn't know you were missing. Now listen, approval is tempting, no doubt about it. We grow up chasing gold stars, applause, nods of approval from teachers, parents, peers. We're taught early on that fitting in is safer than standing out, that going along is easier than speaking up. And little by little, the lesson seeps in. If you want to be like, stay quiet. If you want to be accepted, don't make waves. And so we do it. We silence our opinions to avoid conflict. We smile through discomfort to avoid being difficult. We let our values be stepped on, watered down, or outright ignored just for the illusion of harmony. And sure, in the moment it seems to work, we keep the peace, we get the pat on the back, we stay in the room. But at what cost? Every time you silence your voice to keep someone else's comfort intact, you teach yourself that your truth doesn't matter. Every time you compromise your values for a seat at someone else's table, you teach yourself that your integrity is negotiable. And that's a steep, soul-crushing price to pay just to be liked. Because deep down, you know it's fake. You know the approval isn't real. It's for the version of you that you've edited, not the whole of who you are. It's conditional, fragile. It disappears the moment you stop playing along. And here's where it gets heavy. There comes a day when your silence turns on you. When you look in the mirror and don't recognize who's staring back. When the ache of pretending gets louder than the fear of being alone. That's when you realize approval built on betrayal of self is a cage dressed up as a compliment. See, your voice, that's sacred. It's not something to trade for cheap applause or fleeting validation. Your values, they're not accessories to be swapped out depending on the crowd. They're the compass that keeps you from getting lost. And if someone demands your silence as the price of their acceptance, well, then their acceptance was never worth having in the first place. So, yeah, speak up, stand firm, say the thing that shakes the room, even if your voice trembles. Because respect that comes from being real will always outweigh approval that requires you to disappear. Every single time. WE live in a world that's loud, crowded, and constantly spinning. And in all that noise, it's too easy to hold back, to speak in half-truths, to sugarcoat, to bite your tongue, because it feels safer than honesty. But I'll tell you straight, silence when your soul is screaming is not strength. It's slow self-erasure. When you speak from your truth, not what you're told to think, not what's trending, not what will win you praise, but what you really believe, you anchor yourself. You stop floating in other people's expectations. You plant your flag in your own ground, and you say, this is where I stand. Now, I won't lie to you, truth-telling comes with risk. Some people won't like it. Some will walk away. Some might call you too intense, too blunt, too much. But that's not your problem. That's their discomfort with honesty, not a flaw in your character. Because there's immense, unshakable power in someone who speaks with clarity and conviction. Someone who isn't afraid to say, I don't agree, or that doesn't sit right with me, or even just here's how I feel, raw and unpolished. That kind of voice, it cuts through the noise. It doesn't chase approval, it commands respect. But speaking your truth isn't just about confronting others, it's about refusing to lie to yourself. It's about naming what you want, what you fear, what you dream about in the quiet hours of the night. It's about no longer hiding your needs behind politeness or dressing your pain up in humor just to make others comfortable. It's about having the guts to own your story, your desires, your wounds. And it's not always loud. Sometimes speaking your truth is the whisper in a moment when everyone else is shouting. Sometimes it's walking away when you're expected to stay. Sometimes it's saying no without an apology. But every time you do it, you grow stronger. Not louder, stronger, more grounded, more whole. Because when you say what you mean, you stop being a copy of someone else's voice. You become a song that only you can sing, and people might not always like the tune, but the ones who matter. They'll recognize the honesty in your notes. And that kind of truth, it doesn't just shake rooms. It builds them. There's this idea we're sold that comfort equals happiness, that being surrounded by people, constantly affirmed, constantly celebrated, somehow means we're doing life right. But that's a lie, dressed up in applause and Instagram filters. Because there's a loneliness worse than being alone. It's walking a path that was never meant for you. It's waking up every day living a version of life that someone else picked out for you. It's success that feels empty. It's a smile that doesn't reach your eyes. It's a slow suffocation under layers of other people's expectations. See, it's easy to follow the crowd. It's easy to say, well, everyone's doing it, so maybe I should too. It's easy to choose the degree that pleases your parents, the job that looks good on paper, the relationship that makes sense to others but feels hollow to you. You can walk miles in that direction and still feel like you're going nowhere. You can climb a ladder and realize it's leaning against the wrong damn wall. But when you finally step off that well-trodden road, when you stop asking for directions from people who don't even know where you want to go, everything changes. Yes, it gets quiet. Yes, it gets uncomfortable. You might find yourself walking alone for a while. No map, no praise, just the raw sound of your own footsteps and your gut telling you keep going. And that's terrifying because carving out your own path means uncertainty. It means being misunderstood. It means people asking, why would you do that, with raised eyebrows and polite concern? But you keep walking because something deep in you knows it's better to be alone on a road that feels real than to be surrounded on a path that feels fake. Because when you walk your own path, even in solitude, even in silence, you're alive in a way that walking someone else's dream never allows. You start discovering who you are when no one's watching. You learn what matters to you, not what's trending, not what's expected, not what's rewarded. And here's the thing, your path, it's not just yours for the sake of pride or rebellion. It's yours because you're the only one who can walk it. You were born with a rhythm, a story, a voice that doesn't match the crowd. And that's not a mistake, it's your mission. So even if the road is narrow, even if it winds through loneliness and shadows, keep walking. Because every step you take in your own direction is a step away from pretending, a step toward becoming. Now, this one, it cuts deep because we've been trained since childhood to do the opposite. Keep your head down. Don't make a fuss. Don't be too loud, too bold, too different. Fit the mold. Stay in line. Be nice, be agreeable, be predictable. We're told it's safer that way. More polite, more acceptable. But I'll tell you what it really is. It's a cage. Blending in, that's survival. Standing out, that's living. You weren't put on this earth to be a copy-paste version of the person next to you. You weren't designed to walk through life as a shadow. Look at nature. Nothing in it is trying to blend. The stars don't dim themselves. The oceans don't flatten their waves. The trees don't apologize for how tall they grow. And neither should you. You have something in you, some strange, beautiful fire that isn't meant to be dulled. Your opinions, your laughter, your weird habits, your wild dreams, your way of seeing the world, they are not flaws to fix. They are fingerprints. They are proof that you are not a replica. You're not here to follow the script. You're here to write your own. But standing out, that's hard because it means being visible, and being visible means being judged, scrutinized, talked about, maybe even rejected. And let's be honest, that's scary. It's much easier to dim your light, soften your voice, and go unnoticed. But what's the cost? You don't get to hide and shine at the same time. You don't get to be extraordinary and invisible. You don't get to leave a mark on the world if you're too busy erasing your edges to fit in with people who were never meant to understand you. And let's be real, blending, it might get you applause, but it won't get you fulfillment. Because the applause is for the mask, not for the real you. And when the lights go down and the room empties, all you're left with is the quiet ache where you weren't fully seen. So stand out, be bold in your silence and in your roar. Be the one who doesn't laugh when the joke isn't funny. Be the one who dresses how they feel, not how they're told. Be the one who speaks up in a room full of nodding heads. Because the world doesn't need more copies, it needs more originals who dare to be seen. Now, that is the quiet truth that no one really wants to confront. We spend so much of our lives wrapped up in the business of other people, trying to impress, trying to please, trying to keep peace, win love, earn respect. We wake up to alarms we didn't set, chasing goals we didn't choose, checking boxes we don't even remember agreeing to. And all the while, we're molding ourselves to fit into rooms we don't belong in, twisting our spirit into shapes that feel foreign just to be accepted. But the curtain always falls, the music dies down, the applause fades, and when all the noise finally quiets, you're left alone with you. That's the part no one warns you about, the conversations you have in your own head when no one's around to watch. The mirror that reflects not just your face, but your choices. The silence that asks, who have you become? And do you like being in your own company? Because at the end of the day, people come and go. Friends drift, lovers leave, even the most loyal ones can't follow you into the depths of your own soul. That's a journey you take alone. And if you've spent your life being everything to everyone but nothing to yourself, what do you have left? So here's the hard, necessary truth. You better like who you are when the crowd disappears. You better respect that person. Trust that person. Be able to sit with them in the quiet and not feel like a stranger to your own skin. That doesn't mean being perfect. That doesn't mean having it all figured out. It means being real. Owning your truth, standing by your values, making choices that your future self won't have to flinch at. It means being someone you'd want to have an honest conversation with. Someone who doesn't run from their flaws or hide behind distractions. And listen, that kind of self-respect. It's not something anyone else can hand you. It's not earned by likes, followers, promotions, or praise. It's built in the small, quiet moments when you choose integrity over ease. When you speak up instead of staying quiet. When you walk away instead of staying for comfort. When you choose to become someone you're not ashamed to be. Because if you're going to be stuck with anyone for life, it's you. Might as well make that relationship honest. Might as well build something deep and unshakable with yourself. Might as well be someone worth knowing. Not for the world's sake, but for your own. So as you move through this life, don't lose sight of the one person who will always be with you, yourself. Don't let the noise, the expectations, and the demands of others drown out your own voice. Don't settle for being a version of you that others can tolerate. Be the full, unapologetic, messy, beautiful version of yourself. Take the time to know yourself, to respect yourself, and to build a life that reflects the truth of who you are. Because in the end, the only person you truly need to impress is the one staring back at you in the mirror. Make sure when you look at that reflection, you smile and think, I'm proud of you. That's the kind of life worth living. And that's the kind of person worth knowing.